Welcome everyone to the Meshery development meeting. Today is the 10th of November. And if you have any topics to add to the meeting minutes, feel free to answer so that we can discuss it on the call, as well as add your name to the attendees list in the meeting minutes. The link to the meeting minutes is in the chat. And before we get started, Meshery is at 996 stars. So if you haven't started the repo, go star it and ask your friends to star it. And let's see who is the lucky number 1000. All right. And yep.
By the way, just the statistic that Rudraksh just shared is like, yeah, it's pretty, well, I don't know how you want to think. It's something to think about. It's like that if there's over 500 forks of the project, 1,000 stars, like that's a lot of contribution, right? That's a ton of contribution, like the ratio, as you'll note on other repos. So, yeah, interesting. It speaks to part of the success. It's like why you are all here, actually. Cool.
Piyush is always number one in this list as well as the top stars. So, all right. So let's get started with today's agenda. So we have an update from Nitish and Sayantan on the refactoring of Meshery UI. So a weekly update and a progress tracker. So would any of you like to start us off?
Yep. Yeah, so let me share my screen. So yeah, so there have been an initiative going on to refactor the Meshery UI and bring in bring in Redux and Redux observable and Redux Dunk into Meshery UI because of the state management concerns that we had. And yeah, so this is actually the proposal. So if you want to look into what problems it's trying to address and how we're trying to approach it, then yeah, you can look into this particular document. And also like yeah, this is the branch that will be working on, that is yep, sorry about that. So this is where we'll be working on the refactoring of Meshery UI, and also we're also tracking the progress of our contributions as well in a spreadsheet over here. So if you're into UI and you want to contribute, then you can just come over here and put your name into, like, these are the components that we're trying to build first, and then like these will be the globally reusable components, and we'll be building other components on top of this. So yeah, that is what is going on right now, and you can see that people have already assigned some of the tasks and they are working on it. So you can just come over here and put your name and start working on some of the on these tasks. So if you are like, if you don't know how to get started, then we have this readme file inside the branch itself. There's also a link to this particular readme file in the meeting minutes, so you can go over here and read about what is the workflow, what is the flow that you should follow in order to contribute to the UI refactoring process. And yeah, that's it. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, and if you're into UI, this might be a huge opportunity for you to learn. And yep, that's it. And Sayantan had some updates, so I guess he can take over from here. And
Sure, I would like to share my screen. First of all, I'm sorry if you are hearing some loud noise in my background. Okay, let me share my screen. So I have just raised a PR like 30 minutes ago. So I have, I think in the spreadsheet, I have completed this app part, loading spinner and the data table. And I have created this PR, like this app part. And if you want to see how this thing is actually globally usable, I have an example for you. So basically right now you can see in my app.js, I have created this one. Right now I have hard coded this background color. I will remove it, and you can see, and in the header.js, I have used that custom app wrapper, and you can see this is actually coming from that background. If you want to be sure about that, I can show you. So basically, if you just change this to red, I think it will affect my background. Yeah, so basically it's coming from there only. So basically this is how we are creating these components reusable, and the other two components I have raised in my PR are also reusable. So yeah, basically that's an update from my side.
Okay, so yeah, that's great. And also like regarding like we were like, I mean, like I heard that we would be doing some design changes on into the Meshery UI as well. Like we are going to rewrite a lot of things, and we thought that we might as well do some design changes to make it look better. So so Lee, like, do you think this is an area where we might change the structure?
Yeah, I did. Which is it? The dashboards that Sayatan is
Yep.
showing?
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Although, since you've already done it, like, great, like, let's move forward, and that way we're converted, right? We're on to the new, what do you call it? The new system, the new UI, the new architecture, Redux, state management, whatever we're calling, like we're there. And yes, had you asked that question before Sayatan had done this, then we should have taken the moment to, but for now, I would say until we have a design on file, that we would just go forth with. I'll use an Indian friendly term and say, we'll just go with the same over same here. I don't know if, I think you guys are too young for this actually. Same over same, is that like a thing? Have you guys, that's like a decade old, yeah, praise the Lord. You guys, thank goodness that it's not a thing anymore. It's gone by the wayside. Okay, anyway, sorry. We'll just go. We'll just go with the same thing for now until we get a new design. There is, so Abhi Kumar has taken it upon himself to try to enhance the way that adapters are shown. And we might take a quick look at that if he comes to the call later. Briefly, the connection status, the right side set of dashboards. That's a great dashboard for Meshery's health and the health of all its components, which can be relocated probably to settings. And so, yeah, that's great. So inside of the tracker, the implementation tracker, that spreadsheet, we have got, so Meshmate Aditya has done the modal. Boom. We've got some PRs open from the boss. Geez, quite a few. And so beautiful. At some point, how many, like, do you have a sense, Nitish, of the number of other rows, like how many rows we would have in here before we're sort of fully transitioned?
Around 30.
Okay. Cool. Well, any other updates on this?
Yeah, so you can also you should feel free to add the reviews on the PRs that people are making. So yeah, that would also be useful.
Nice. And you're saying that in general, or like specifically me, or just in general?
No, in general.
Yeah. That's a great point. Like, so I don't know that there's a bunch of, it might be Pranav potentially, or Vedant, as you two gents, and maybe Ayushman as well, as you three gentlemen potentially go to contribute in Meshery UI, which I don't think you have yet. It's not as complex as you might think. I mean, it's just React right now. It is going to get more complex. So if you're ever going to, now is the time to get in, because we're going through an architectural shift. And so there's a focus on the contributor guide and helping people understand how to contribute. And so now's the time to grab something super tiny and try to pick it off. So, and one of the ways that you can begin to do that is doing what Nitish said, which is offering up a review on any of the open PRs. So, okay. Next.
Yep, thank you, Nitish and Sanatan. Next up, we have an update on the Meshery Docs versioning from Aditya. Aditya, would you like to?
I'll share my screen.
Yep, thank you.
So I haven't pushed these changes, so I'll just show them locally right now. So right now I have taken a different approach that we spoke about. So now basically the the latest version is in the docs folder, and then there are 5 other versions which each have the config, which each have like a static HTML site. So now after we merge it, we will have 5 different we'll have 5 different sites with different URLs. The latest URL will be docs.meshery.io/latest. Right now I have version 1 running, so that'll become docs.meshery.io/v0.1. So yeah, I have done it for 2 versions, and the latest need to complete it for the other versions. And we'll actually I'm actually showing this to you locally because we need to rewrite the build and preview also, the build and preview for the Netlify workflow, because that's not working right now. So we'll have to update that so that it can show us what. Yeah, that's the update from my side.
Are you able to go to /latest, or if you just go to the root?
Right now I'm not.
Okay.
Because I have version 1 running right now, so they are all like 5 separate. But once they are all merged, so then we'll redirect from docs.meshery.io/latest to docs.meshery.io/v1.
Gotcha. And so for users who just navigate to docs.meshery.io, will they stay there by default, or will they be all, perpetually redirected?
That'll be the latest. They'll be directed to the latest.
Or they will be.
Then I'll put in a switcher over here. So with the switcher, they would redirect to all the other versions.
But so no one will be able to visit the site at docs.meshery.io and stay at that URL. They will always be redirected to /latest, or if they've chosen to look at a different version, they would stay within that version.
Yeah, if they've chosen to stay in a different version, they would stay within that version. I could make it happen that they would stay in docs.meshery.io and /latest. I think that is possible to do.
Okay, yeah, and I guess my point being is, like, if we don't need to have the /latest, might be nice to.
That's an easy change. So it's just we'll just change the base URL to just being what it is right now, so it doesn't have to be /latest.
Nice.
Did anyone want to say anything about that?
Wouldn't this like increase the repo size really greatly, and like wouldn't that affect
Yeah, it
things?
would. Yeah, I don't think it'll increase it by a lot, but yeah, it'll surely increase it by some amount.
It'll
Like
increase it by 70 megabytes, and we have what, a gigabyte offered for free. So it's not a concern.
yeah, we have plenty of space to use. This is actually the best possible way. I think there's no other way that we will be able to do it.
Sure, sounds good.
That's a great question. And actually, to be technical, like technically, there's like 10 other ways to do it. It's just that this is the cheapest, the simplest. It like there's a bunch of reasons why you won't find broken links. You'll be able to change the structure of the site, and that would be fine. You wouldn't break old versions. Be perpetually backwards compatible. You have a single URL that you always refer to. You won't have to mess with DNS. You won't have to be running multiple sites. So just run one. You'll snapshot like there's like a ton. You don't have to mess with multiple branches. Like I have no idea why other projects that run Jekyll and that have this same conundrum don't take the same approach. But we should package it up and sell it.
There's literally not a single example out there. I have done so much of research, haven't been able to find even one. So yeah.
Thank
But
you,
yeah,
Aditya.
but I mean, just to reinforce what Vendu had said, is that it is a consideration that you wouldn't want to make sure that you don't blow past the storage offered for a given repo. Of course, you could break out docs from the main repo. That's less desirable, but it's a solution. Another one is to just prune the number of versions that you have out there. It might be painful for some of us, but I think we could all agree that no one is running v0.1 or .2 or .3 or .4. So no one cares. But like at some point we can prune those back as well. So cool.
Anyone else had any questions or comments for Aditya? All right. Next up, we have Rudraksh, who will be giving an update on the Helm-based deployment of Meshery operator. Rudraksh, you are up.
Yep. I'll share my screen. So I hope it's visible. Basically, it's about this PR. Before the v0.6 release, we've been trying to move away from Kubernetes manifest and using Helm charts instead, so that we have a more defined way. Okay. Bye. Yeah. Are you guys able to see my screen? Because I'm having some sort of lag. I'm not sure.
We can see your browser that is at the pull request. But I think it's frozen.
Yeah. Anyway, so the thing is that right now we have Helm charts in Meshery CTL, and when Meshery CTL actually installs Meshery in your cluster or otherwise, it uses the Helm charts to install that. But there are some caveats around Helm, mainly that those caveats are happening because how Helm works. Helm has these two things. On every object that Helm creates in your cluster, it sets these two attributes, or in more Kubernetes specific language annotations. So one is that this object is managed by Helm, and the other is that this is a part of a Helm release. Basically, a Helm release is just an installed instance of a chart. So conflicts happen because of these two, and Helm rejecting if it finds an object which is already present in your cluster and it doesn't meet any of the two criteria. That's causing a lot of problem, and mainly I've seen issues around operator. Those are happening because right now the current flow is that if Meshery server doesn't find the operator in the cluster, it installs it by itself using manifest, which doesn't obviously have these two properties which Helm's looking for. And that's why some people are facing the bug when they switch from local deployments or Docker deployments to in cluster deployments, that Meshery CTL refuses to install Meshery on the cluster because they have some CRs already present. A way to get rid of these is to move to Helm deployment of the operator as well. So this is what this PR is about. And we talked a bit about this about 2-3 weeks back. After that, I went away for a while, and yeah. So just some updates to give on that. Asuko recently created a new and published a new chart for Meshery operator, which is having Meshery operator as the main chart, and Meshery server is a subchart giving you the ability to, control if you want to install Meshery server or not. There are some things with this. I'll come to them later. Just a little go through of what is happening. We first, the revised approach, we first detect if Meshery is running in cluster or not. This is how we're doing it. Just taking an environment variable. And this approach might seem questionable at first, but I confirmed with a few people that this is indeed the one which we'll have to use. And basically it just checks an environment variable and decides that if it is in cluster or not. We need to check if Meshery is in cluster or not, basically because charts are, we are using two charts now. One is for the Meshery operator and one is for the Meshery server. And if the current install was done using Meshery server, if Meshery server finds that Meshery is already installed in your cluster, it won't actually use the other chart. It would just use the Meshery server chart and set an upgrade, and then use appropriate overrides to either disable the operator or enable the operator. And if Meshery server is not present in cluster, it uses the other chart, that is the Meshery operator chart, which installs without any problems. Now, this is the main revision that has been done to this PR since last time we met. And other things that this is taking a look at is what all adapters are already present in your cluster, so that when it's overriding, it doesn't actually uninstall those. However, there were some problems with that, but I received a last minute tip from Ashish and I've changed this a bit. Yeah.
Is there any, this is a great explanation and overview, but is there any reason to not go forth with the PR that you have now for finally getting off of manifest? Any caveats that you've seen?
With the earlier approach?
Well, or just do you have a pull request open now that displaces the manifest-based deployment with a Helm-based deployment?
Yep.
Of the operator inside of Meshery server. Any issues that you've bumped into thus far?
Issues are mainly around after moving to this, the only thing is CRs. So basically Helm installs CRs, but it doesn't take responsibility for them. And if it finds them already in cluster, if it doesn't find them in cluster, Meshery operator installation might fail. So I guess the final update to this would be fixing that how we install CRs, maybe a dry run for that. And I think then this PR would be good to go. I was talking about this PR itself, like there is no other PR other than this.
Cool. Good. And so have you found a common approach to managing CRs with Helm that other projects are using, Helm project recommends?
Skipping CRDs, or I mean, setting up, like our charts currently install CRs. So I think we can still keep them. But when Meshery server installs, it can have a dry run, which actually checks if Helm installation would fail due to missing CRs. And if it fails, then it would include those CRs as well. If it doesn't, then it would go.
And just to be precise, just so that we're not, you're talking about custom resources and not custom resource definitions.
I think I might have mixed that one, but resources, yeah, not their deployments, not the pods, the resources.
Okay, or actually, that's good. Your clarification makes me wonder that we might not be so just to the CRDs, the Ds being the definition, like this custom object. So a mesh sync, Meshery broker. There are definitions of what those objects are, but to have an instance of them, you'd have a CR, a custom resource defined. So there's the definition and then there's an instance of it.
This PR takes care, I mean, both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so briefly, like to get, so I'm gonna kind of in a hurry to like get this one done because, and most of the folks on the phone, we generally take a lot of time to explain stuff, and I don't think anybody's really, most people aren't necessarily grokking this, and so it's probably not helping that much. My question is, we don't want to orphan anything on the cluster when we uninstall, including CRs and CRDs and cluster roles and cluster role bindings and service accounts and namespaces and nothing. Yep. Doing so will help us prevent situations where Helm bumps into a conflict of pre-existing objects when it goes to try to do an install. Understanding that we might be able to get to a point where we're not orphaning any objects, which would be great. There might still be situations where objects were orphaned for one or another reason, or someone goes to like turn off a cluster. They're running Meshery there. They turn off a cluster, they turn it back on. And maybe the way that they're turning it back on is like maybe they're running Meshery CTL system start again, even though there might be an actively installed or run. And we don't want the response to come back. We want it to be an idempotent command. So the idempotency of the way that the style that we're used to interacting with Kubernetes kind of gets corrupted by Helm and the way that it behaves. So yeah, between those two scenarios, not orphaning, but even to the extent that something has been orphaned, like ignoring it and just forcing the install. Is there such a mechanism, force install?
With Helm, no, I don't think so. We'll either need some sort of user interaction. So if anyone else has some points.
User interaction, what would the user interaction do?
I mean, so we could give them an error that this failed due to this resource already being present. You might have to delete it. So please take care of deleting it.
So maybe we should delete it. Like if we create a force, then let's delete it.
Okay. I think it would be dynamic, but yeah, sure. We can look into it.
Nice. Yeah, there might be common practices around that.
Yep.
Then on the other challenge we were talking about like leaving objects orphaned, the CRs or the CRDs or that might be the same logic. We might have the same delete logic, like, hey, let's clean up what Helm isn't cleaning up, which would be kind of bad because we'd kind of be still stuck with our own manifests in some respects. Helm plus some of our own logic. So curious, have you asked anyone in the Helm community about these items, or do they have written docs that say, here's why you don't do that?
So basically, Helm gives the explanation that we don't take care of CRs. People have their own way of doing that, and CRs are pretty varied. So Helm is still to come up with a design which also takes care of CRs. Right now, it would only install CRs for you. It won't do anything else other than that. So someone else need to take care of deleting those CRs. If it is not Meshery server, then the user. If it's not Meshery server or Meshery CTL. Like here, Meshery server takes care of deleting those CR and CRDs.
So I get that. I'm saying, hey, that doesn't fly. Like, that's not a good answer. Press on that, and what pops out. And so I'll initiate some conversations to see what people are doing, best practices in terms of ensuring that their artifacts aren't orphaned. And that might give us a clue where others have been down this path before.
Sure.
And then I guess we're still in the same boat. So this is a positive step forward, this PR that you have, but we're still in the same boat in both respects, like the respect that we might go to do an install, a system start, and bump into an issue and not have any logic that overcomes that issue.
I'm trying to do I'm taking care of the resources that might be left over with the delete routine as well. Like when Meshery server stops, it would get rid of those.
Okay.
That,
So this is bad. So I guess I didn't realize. So this Golang is this Golang that you're writing that?
Yeah.
So like we're getting rid of manifests to hopefully be in a better place with Helm, but now we're writing any amount of Golang to basically manage the install anyway. It's like, well, that seems weird. I mean, that's not ideal. I'm not saying that you're doing something wrong. I'm saying, oh, this isn't working out how we had hoped.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go I'll go initiate a couple of conversations, pull you into them, and let's see if we can get some things figured out with some others that have had the same experience. It may be that, hey, look, it might be that we don't use Helm for installing through Meshery server. That's not ideal. That's like what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to get to a single system. Yeah. Anybody else on the call familiar with Helm? Been around the block on this particular challenge? Somebody might speak up as we transition to the next topic, but otherwise, Rudraksh, I guess now I don't know whether or not to go forward with this PR. I didn't know you'd written a bunch of other Go.
Okay.
Good. Okay, cool. Anybody else have comments here? No. Navendi, what's next?
So the next topic is from Mano. Mano, would you like to talk about it? Mano, we can't hear you.
Yeah, you know what? I was going to tag team this with Manav. But Manav, do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, I could go ahead. I would just suggest some mic issue.
Lee?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I didn't hear what Manav said. I thought it was, yeah. Hey, so the next topic up is that for the V070 release, but like as a plan for that next minor release, the Meshery needs to improve in the way in which it allows people to look at metrics that it's tracking. Metrics, and if you extrapolate that out, it's not just metrics, it's telemetry. So it's potentially distributed traces, it's logs. But for the time being, we're focused on metrics. So some of you have been fortunate enough to connect up either Prometheus or Grafana in a Meshery deployment, and you've then been able to pick from existing Grafana boards and then see metrics in Meshery. It's quite helpful. We expose metrics in 3 places in Meshery today. And there's not any, there's a little bit of customization that can happen, probably unbeknownst to most of you. Did anyone have Meshery up? But unbeknownst to most of you, you can incorporate metrics. You can bring in your own custom Grafana charts with your own metrics and define them. And Meshery today will let you run a PromQL query for metrics. That's all pretty well hidden functionality that most people haven't gotten to. And so Manav is championing an effort to try to change that, to try to make the main Meshery dashboard much more like a dashboard, an operational dashboard that shows you various statistics, various metrics. And so to do so, right now, so let me share a couple of docs real quick. By the way, let me pause for a moment. So, hey, there's a couple of new folks that have joined. So Naprenda and PC, welcome to the call. Nice to have you. If you don't mind, do you mind introducing yourself in the chat? And PC, if you don't mind renaming to spell out your first and last name for us, that would be really nice. All right, so inside of Meshery today, everybody's got access to the Meshery architecture deck. Just paste a link in there. Meshery architecture deck. If you look at the architecture today, there's a few different ways of looking at the architecture, but this particular slide 5, sort of highlights most of the high-level logical objects that Meshery tracks and is aware of. And it tells you if Meshery creates the object or is just aware of it, or if that's an extension point. And so today, there are these dashboard configurations that some of which are hard-coded in the system, and some of which users can, like I said, users can add their own custom dashboards, just in not a very easy way. And so that configuration, when someone does do configure dashboards, that will be persisted into their user preferences on the back end. And so this is what Meshery looks like today. The proposal is a bit more like this. So multiple metrics and multiple telemetry providers and custom dashboards or custom boards. And so what would happen is that we would begin to have, new objects, new nouns in the Meshery database. One for a dashboard itself. The dashboard might have multiple panels. Panels are basically charts, or they show metrics. And panels might have one or more metrics in that panel. So we begin to have a few new first-class nouns in the project. Boards, panels. Boards can have things like a location. So ideally, like in the main dashboard, when you open up Meshery, there will end up being a couple of spots that you could. So here's Figma that we use in the project to do mockups. All of you are entitled to access. Here's the dashboard. Here's a mockup of what that dashboard might look like in the future. Excuse me. So there might be it might be something like this, where there would be potentially 2 or 3 locations. So this red outline here is intended to be the sort of the concept of a location. So in this location, what dashboards would you like to show? And within, and this being kind of a dashboard, so in a given location, you might be able to show multiple dashboards. So one up here, one down here. And then within a board, you'd have 1 or more panels. And so we try to give the users the ability to sequence what order they'd like to show the boards in, sequence what order they'd like to show the panels in, and then give them a little bit of control over the panels. So if you're familiar with Meshery's performance profiles and the cards that you see there, you're able to, users can click on a card and swivel them, like flip them over, look at the back side of the card. So if a user is looking at the graphical view of metrics, of particular metrics, but they would like to change those or augment them, that they could potentially click on this gear icon, basically have the card swivel, turn over. On the back side, they would see the panel JSON, the configuration that makes up that panel, those set of metrics. And so these set of metrics are compatible with Grafana's SDK, and that's in part how we'll import and potentially export panels. People could then save them. That would be part of their user preferences. And so, okay, and so in other locations, like in settings, there might be the ability, there might be other, there's multiple places to expose metrics. There might be different locations that people can place their boards. People can start to have a bit more control over what boards are shown, what metrics are shown, and what UI. That's the gist of it. The high level object model looks like this. The mock-ups kind of look like this. There is a diagram. I'm sorry. There is a set of database tables that are designed to show the way that data is currently stored and what these objects currently are. And then there's a proposal for what that would change to. We will take this out of this drawing and put it into an architecture slide so that everyone can review and comment and ask questions. Aside from that, there will also be an adjoining design spec in which we'll talk about what users, what is a board, what is a panel, what is a telemetry provider, what can users do, have various, how are we dealing with, today we have these dynamic and static boards. Does that lingo carry forth? And so it's a bit of an overhaul for this area. So the design spec isn't written yet, but there's been a lot of discussion about the constructs and how they would relate to one another. A little bit of thought about the API endpoints, because there are existing API endpoints for Prometheus and Grafana today, and the way that Meshery talks to them. So this isn't, I think, what we were able to try to show you all today is just give you an overview of the set of work and kind of the roadmap, what that looks like for this area for .7. If anybody's interested in this area, great. Like, we'll get you those links, but surely by this time next week or well before, Mana will probably send out a design spec and some of these mock-ups for review and comment.
Yeah.
Does anybody have just a gut reaction or questions on the scope, or anybody interested in participating in that effort?
All
Cool.
right. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Manav. Next up, we have a demo from Abhishek on the new feature in the dashboard. So, Abhishek,
Yeah, hi.
you are up.
Okay, so this is the current dashboard that we have. So it's just a very minor change in the way the adapters are shown. So we are just listing the active adapters which are running, and if the number of active adapters are same as the number of available adapters, then there will not be any add adapters button. Else there would be add adapters from where you can configure your adapters. Like if some adapters are offline and you want to edit from here, you can. So currently this is the dev environment. That's why it's taking some build time. Otherwise it would have been a much smoother experience. Yeah, other than that, the other change that you can see here is the elevation on the on these cards. So yeah, so it's just a local change that I have in that I have locally only. So it's not in the PR currently, but yeah, it looks nice to me actually. So that's why I just uh, tried to show it there. That's it.
Comments for Abhishek?
So
Oh, but
yeah, we are showing that the icons are kind of collapsed, right? So can we do something other than showing it like that? Because it doesn't look that good to me.
Okay, this one.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. It was just an experimentation. It was not hard felt design. So we can just replace it with one add button. So it's just I just wanted to try something like this. So that's why I just added it.
Okay.
Also, probably the color of the plus symbol.
Definitely. Actually, this is coming from a Google site, downloaded in the public directory. So yeah, this color can be changed to this. So since I had to add avatar because these two are grouped together, so it can only contain avatar. So that's why right now, if you're thinking to just replace these two, so only one end button, so this color can be much optimized and can be matched to this button. So this background. So no worries, yeah, we'll do it. Uh, so any other comments? Thanks for the early ones. Okay, so any comments on the elevation property? Like, should I push it to the branch, or should I not for now? We can just.
say one more time about the elevation. I missed.
So if you see the previous UI, so all the cards are elevated, and yeah. So currently, considering it that these are all on the same page, so no elevation is required at all. So just to so there is slight change in the color, you can see. So it's look much cleaner to me, so that's why I just showed it.
Yeah, I'll toss in a +1 on that.
It looks better.
Okay, then one item, right? So just change this, change these, and add plus button only with this color.
For sure, the elevation.
Yeah, second thing. Yeah, the second thing is I just
Yeah.
elevation.
Like Yep, but the concept that like, yeah, I think we should do some, or my suggestion would be to do a little bit of iteration on the concept that you've got going of like any number of additional adapters. I think that it historically had been the case that in some respects we wanted to facilitate discovery for everyone, every user to come in and they would see like, oh, there's all these other meshes that could be managed. Maybe I'd like to try those and I'd like to connect them up and do things with them. And anymore, I think the project has gotten to the point where it's, you know, it was originally, you might have even seen the words a year ago, like Meshery as the service mesh playground to come and learn and try out and explore. And as Meshery evolves into a much more earnestly serious piece of software for ongoing operational, you know, capabilities, the less about it becomes pretty obvious to everyone that comes to try Meshery that like it doesn't just manage one service mesh. And so optimizing the user experience for discovery of that fact is probably, you know, not necessary anymore. And so anyway, that gives credence to what you're doing, which is compressing the user interface, avoiding, you know, overloading the user with 10 different statuses of the different, you know, connected adapters. You know, most of the majority of the time that someone will use Meshery, it will just be for, sometimes for no service meshes, sometimes for one service mesh, sometimes for two, and the higher the number goes, the lesser amount that they're going to use it. So along the same thinking though, there's a much more significantly important and here and now consideration about chips. Chips are those elongated ovals that we're seeing, those adapters. Yeah, like that's what you call it. That's for everyone else, that's what you call it at Mesh or Material UI calls it a chip. So we're using these chips to represent connections from Meshery server to other Meshery components like adapters, operator, broker, also to other pieces of infrastructure like Kubernetes clusters, Grafana, Prometheus, Jaeger, other things. Well, here and now, there's a consideration for the fact that there's a pull request that's under review that adds the pervasive capability for Meshery to support simultaneous concurrent connections to multiple Kubernetes clusters, which then forces us to go build out an enhanced user experience around the fact that you might have any number of Kubernetes cluster chips. So you might have a bunch of those chips, and those chips are actually bear a lot more weight on what the user is doing in all of the rest of the UIs. When someone invokes an operation or is looking at the statistics of a given set of services, or like they're always doing it in context of at least one cluster, if not multiple at the same time. And so bringing about the easy ability to switch between clusters. So, or if someone's connected to 10 Kubernetes clusters, maybe they actively want all 10 loaded, but for a given operation, they only want to affect 5 of the clusters, not all 10. Maybe they want to have cluster groups where those 5 are for test, these 5 are for prod. So there are some more pressing concerns around Kubernetes clusters, chips. And the nice thing about Abhi, what you're exploring here is that once we get the UX paradigm figured out for adding a chip, adding a connection to a thing, well, that will be applicable to Kubernetes cluster, to all of the other types of chips. So.
Yeah.
Okay, just another thing that came to my mind right now. So whenever the user clicks the add adapter button, it takes us to the page where we can, in this page, like the only option that we are providing to the user is to select the available list of adapters and connect it to Meshery. So this is something that if you can think about, like we can actually do it in the dashboard itself, right? So right where we place the add adapters button, we can actually show a model or something that would uh, we need not redirect a user to the different page in order to do this a simple task of adding another chip. So if you can do it at the same place, then it might be more convenient for the user.
I definitely agree to it. And yeah, the approachable solution to it is like adding an autocomplete button right here, uh, right beneath the chip. That will be much
Yeah.
more simple than the actual thing that you'll be seeing here, like 1000 or something.
So this page can be
Agree.
for yeah, in the future if you have some complex operation that user wants to do on the adapter, then we, for that reason, we can still keep that page in the settings page as well.
Yeah, because actually when some adapters are offline or they are online and we want to reconnect to it, so what we are doing just is reconnecting from here. So the same thing can be done with the dashboard itself, and it will be much better user experience. So yeah, definitely.
So yeah, one thing that might be something that we have to consider is that, like, if in the dashboard we are saying that we are only showing the status of the connection, and if we try and do that thing, then uh, yeah, I don't know, like it might be something like, yeah, it might not strictly be that be like that we are just showing the status of the connection and not allowing the users to change anything or do something here. So that might be something that we'll have to consider. But generally, as when if like if you think about if you're thinking about user convenience and along those kind of stuff, then yeah, this might make more sense.
Cool. Right, so we're just at the top of the hour. Do we have other topics that we needed to make it through?
Yep, we do have other topics, but like, is there any other topic that needs to be discussed right now? Or if yes, then we can stay back for a couple of minutes to get those discussed as well.
I think we can discuss mine on Friday.
Sounds good. And I will update I'll be talking about the SMP action on the CNCF tag call that's happening next week. So I'll update it there.
Nice. Nice to see everybody. Thank you, Navendu.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you in the next meetings. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.